Welcome back to Kingston Now. We are on location at the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency in the town of Kingston. And joining us now is Peter Moon from O2 Compost, a company based in the state of Washington. Say the name of the town, Peter.
Snohomish, Washington, a little bit outside of Seattle.
What brings you to the East Coast to do this here in the town of Ulster?
Well, that actually is quite a long answer to a short question, but we've been doing quite a bit of work in New York State. Onondaga County has a system that I've helped with over the last 4 years, and because the counties have a strong association, the folks here in Ulster County they were watching what I was doing, were very encouraged. They're very forward-thinking here, and so they said, why don't we try that in our county? And so that's what brought me here.
So tell me, in your opening remarks for the grand opening ceremony a short while ago, you gave a great description about what happens to the material and the process. Can you recapitulate that a little bit?
Absolutely. The method of composting that we're employing here is referred to as aerated static pile composting. And what that means is we induce airflow through the mix, and by doing that maintain aerobic conditions in the pile. And there's a lot of benefits from doing that. One, we derive a lot of heat. The microbes that are doing all the work for us generate a tremendous amount of heat. And with that heat, we're destroying parasites, pathogens, and weed seeds in the mix. By maintaining aerobic conditions, we're also mitigating impacts from odor. Most people think that compost systems will stink up the neighborhood. But in fact, we're brought in to mitigate those sorts of problems in many, many cases using this very technology. It's a much faster process, and in the end, it produces a much better quality finished product.
Now, how will you aerate the raw material? How does that happen?
We use an electric blower. It can be plugged in, or we actually have solar systems that we can run these with as well. And the blower, it's a high pressure, high volume blower, so that when it turns on, a tremendous volume of air under high pressure comes out of it. We feed that air into an aeration manifold, which then directs the air into lateral pipes that sit on the ground beneath the pile. When the blower kicks on, the air goes into the pipes, through the holes in the pipes, and then up through the mix to displace the CO2 and any of the other off gases and replace it with oxygen in the system.
And the decomposition of the material will produce this heat year-round?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, with Okra's system up in Syracuse, we started on December 5th. On December 6th, it was snowing, and they didn't see above freezing temperatures for about 6 months. And we composted throughout that period of time. So absolutely, a tremendous amount of heat is generated, and you can do this year-round.
So what will be the end product?
Well, it's a very stable product, what we call compost. Generally, the wood chips will be screened out. It'll have a soil-like consistency, very high organic content, and it's used as a soil component or a soil blend, and adds a tremendous amount of nutrients, organic matter, and well as the biology, the microbes. That's actually the secret of compost in soil.
The wood chips, of course, are reused then?
Absolutely.
As well?
Yep.
So it's a really sustainable system.
Completely sustainable.
How much raw material, organic raw material, is required to make, say, 50 pounds of compost? Is there a formula for that?
Well, 50 pounds, the rule of thumb is 1 cubic yard of raw material going into the compost pile. I've got that wrong. 1 ton of material going into the compost pile will yield 1 cubic yard of finished product. And so that's probably a 3-to-1 reduction when you get shrinkage due to composting, as well as the screening of the coarser material away from the finer material.
Initially here in Ulster County, the raw material is going to come from supermarkets and restaurants and institutions like SUNY New Paltz, some of the local colleges as well, maybe some of the hospitals. Do those people have to be trained in sorting properly for what goes into the pile? Absolutely.
The key problem, if we have a challenge using food waste as a component in any compost system, it's plastic. And so training of anybody who's handling the food at any stage of the game. So keep the plastic out. Even those little labels on the side of the apples can be problematic. Rubber bands, twist ties, any of those sorts of things that don't decompose will ultimately end up in the compost and need to get screened out. So the more we can educate upstream, the better off we'll be.
So you're a scientist, Peter, so I'm going to ask you this question, and hopefully you know the answer. I think you probably do. The amount of raw organics that go into landfills across the country is probably enormous. There's not a lot of compost programs like this happening, I would guess, in the United States at this time. What kind of impact could that have on the environment if this kind of program existed nationwide?
Well, it's an excellent question. There actually is a tremendous volume of organic material going into the landfill that, if recovered, could be composted. In the western states where I'm from, there is a pretty expansive infrastructure for it, but even so, they're barely scratching the surface. And so I can't give you any numbers, but it's huge volumes, vast volumes. Now, the other end of the process, the finished compost, it's also an important question. What are you going to do with the compost once you produce it? And the fact is, there's an endless use for that finished product in terms of improving soil quality in residential applications, commercial applications, municipal, but mostly in agriculture. Where we're looking at a problem with food and growing food and sustainability, organic matter going back into the soil is the key to the solution of that problem. And so all of those organic waste products that we're generating and disposing of one way or the other, if recovered and composted, would yield a finished product that would be hugely beneficial to us in a community sense, us nationally, us worldwide.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Peter.
Absolutely, thank you.
That's it for this week's show. I'm Jimmy Buff. Thanks to Michelle Bergkamp, Tim Rose of Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, and Peter Moon of O2 Compost. Check out our shows on our Facebook page. You can find our YouTube link there. We'll see you next week.